Everybody, welcome back to the channel and more Birthright here as we work our way through more of the Rurik realms. Today we're taking a look at Stjordvik, which is one that's actually available for players, considered chaotic neutral. It is, as it kind of implies, a chaotic realm where individual Jarls exercise authority independent of their weak ruler. Nomads wander heedless of central authority, and the vicious warlords of the Bloodskull Barony periodically ravage the land. So let's jump in and see what that's getting us. So as you can tell, not really a developed realm, right? Mostly 1s and 2s. There's even a 0. The highlight really is 4. That's saying something. And as you can tell, the laws spread out all over, the guilds, there's multiple things going on there, and the temples as well. Only one source holder, though. So what are you up against if you're running this realm, and also kind of what you can expect if you're just there, maybe adventuring? So the law is evenly divided among the Jarls, while King Vari holds authority only in his capital city. They, the Jarls that is, control their own realm's law, though banditry is increasing and the White Witch's agents now promote dissent and dissatisfaction. Always a ever-present danger. Temples, the Oaken Grove of Eric controls most of the temples, although the Emerald Spiral controls the remainder. Foreign faiths are just not represented, period. And at least on the surface, there's no religious tension here. Guilds, the Stjordvik traders, under the leadership of Storm Holston, which we'll get into a lot. He's kind of a recurring antagonist or protagonist or adversary, depending on how you look at it. Has a small bloodline, he's a level 5 thief, but he's the leading mercantile interest in the region. The Three Trees traders, say that fast, have made major advances on his power in recent years, and the White Witch continues to maintain a small but significant interest in the area. So again, she's a threat on many different levels. Now the sources, the northern provinces have much untapped potential, but the Stjordvikers themselves believe that no wizard has ever claimed or developed their sources. Unbeknownst to them, however, the renegade Rurik wizard Olak the Dragon has seized control of most of the magical sources in the near-empty province of Hjorval. He recently completed forging ley lines between Hjorval and his base of operations in the province of Vejle, in the White Witch's realm. He plans to use the magical power gained through the ley line to engage in battle with the White Witch, who is determined to drive him out of her territory, and good luck to him on that. So if you were to run the realm, you got all kinds of problems aside from just the obvious chaos and lack of unity and power and consolidation that you have. So regency generated versus accumulated, not much. It's bare bones, so you do not have a lot of resources to start with. So you have an uphill battle there with getting anything done. Treasury also, again, like if you want to play like the game on hard mode, as far as like having a real challenge, this is the realm for you. Only 5 gold bars remain in King Vari's depleted treasury. The impoverished realm produces an average of only 6 gold bars in taxes per turn, and most of that is going to be going towards upkeep. So the army has also declined along with the land's fortunes. The northern garrisons remain sufficient to repel invasion from the Bloodskull Barony. Elsewhere, little remains of what was once a potent military force. So today, and it's not terrible, but again, considering what could be, what should be for a larger realm like this, it's enough to start, but it could be so much more. You have 1 unit of Rurik archers, a solid core of 3 infantry, 1 of cavalry, a unit of housecarls, so you do have some elite infantry, and the scouts, which are kind of a good all-rounder, although not that great in combat. But again, that's a decent little force if you could concentrate it in one area, but you have a whole realm to protect, hence they're probably going to be spread out a little bit, and therein lies your problem. Plus, all the other Jarls will have probably some of their own forces, and maybe some of these are even considered part of them, so you don't necessarily have a full army. Now, unlikely that you're probably taking King Vari to start, or rather, if you wanted to run into the old ruler and then like kind of start as King Vari, you have that, but you may want a different character as well. But anyway, he's a level 3 fighter, minor bloodline, considered chaotic good, but he succeeded to the throne 3 years ago upon the death of his mother, the aged Queen Leora Young. Young, indecisive and untrained for the role of regent. He's allowed his Jarls to do as they please, and the kingdom has suffered, right? So he's kind of just there and runs his own little area. Doesn't have much control over the people that really should be running the realm. in good faith, or helping him run that in good faith. So he has no control over them because he's a kid. His chamberlain, Helder, also served as the old queen and does his best to guide the new monarch with, at best, mixed success. High Marshal of Vari's armies, though, Lord Byrne, level 10 fighter, tainted, incredibly small bloodline but lawful good, is intensely loyal despite his liege's shortcomings and would fight to the death anyone who opposed him. So there's sort of a rock that you could build on, right? Level 10 fighter is nothing to sneeze at, and if anybody can help whip things into shape, at least on the military front, that would be him, and maybe he needs to crack some skulls as far as the other Jarls. Speaking of which, there's Ulfjor of Arvald, level 9 fighter though, so another potent figure. Chaotic neutral, and Guthrum Haraldsson of Stjordvik, another high-level fighter, also chaotic neutral with some higher bloodlines, are the two most troublesome leaders, which is unfortunate for you because, yeah, your lieutenant here is a level 10, but, these guys not really far behind. Neither seeks the throne for themselves, but they instead prefer a weak king who allows them to go unchecked and rule their jarldoms as they choose. Both oppose all attempts to strengthen the monarch and are quick to dissuade Vari from taking any actions that would reduce their independence. Intensely selfish and uninterested in the welfare of their kingdom, Ulfjor and Guthrum may be instrumental in leading the realm to ruin. Storm Holston, a major Rurik merchant who has completely turned his back on the old nomadic ways, is probably the wealthiest man in Stjordvik apart from the king. He controls several guild holdings within Rurik clans and elsewhere, particularly in the Annuarian realm of Dosone. So yeah, he's a major character, which we'll get to at the end of this section. That could be someone to maybe court as far as influence, and maybe using his access to funds and influence and stuff like that to weaken these two Jarls a little bit, maybe play them off against each other to ultimately get the realm back on the right track here, right? The law situation here, aside from just the low level of the provinces in general, is a major factor there. So the other one where Vari would, if you're playing him again, would have some possibility would be there in that last province, maybe raising that up a little bit to a 4, maintaining the law there. But somewhere in here, there's a little bit of room there to squeeze in some law and maybe muscle out some of the weaker ones as well, just depending on how you want to start tackling that. But yeah, you got to start somewhere, start bringing some more treasury in too. The description here, so founded in the wake of Deismar and once a mighty realm, it's fallen into decline as of late. The queen's lackadaisical rulership and the feeble incompetence of her son Vari, who rarely sees fit to challenge his Jarls or to assert his authority as king, have dangerously weakened the domain. That could be one too, where maybe there's, if you're not wanting to play as Vari, maybe you're like some other relative of the family that comes in and steps in, or maybe just one of the Jarls that's like, hey, this bloodline has failed us, it's time for new leadership. The Stjordvikers are people of both hardy and independent, in the greatest Rurik traditions. They view their weakling king and the various selfish Jarls with contempt. Many have called for the Jarls' replacement, but so far the discontent has not spread to open revolt, and that's another sort of ticking time bomb that you got to deal with. The southern Stjordvikers, particularly those in and around the trading city of Hollingholmen, are truly urban Rurik, though they retain close ties with their pastoral cousins, who make their living as herders and farmers in the central Jarldoms and northern hills. The growing tension between the nomads and the urban Rurik, kind of like a similar situation with the Voss, right? Which has married Rurik unity elsewhere, is rare or absent in Stjordvik, though. So you at least don't have that to worry about as much. It is perhaps the admirable and honorable nature of these Stjordvikers that makes the current leadership situation so vexing. They're a strong and proud people, and they feel that the willful independence of their Jarls and the incompetence of their monarch are robbing the land of its soul. Rurik kings and Jarls rule only with the consent of their people, and for some, that consent may soon be withdrawn. So you kind of have a potential uprising civil war on your hands as well. The capital, Hollingholmen, is one of the oldest true Rurik cities, built in the mouth of the North Byron River on a narrow peninsula into the Tail Firth. It boasts a sheltered harbor, extensive shipyards and storage facilities, and a large fishing fleet. Travelers and traders from Dosone and points south often visit to deal with the merchants of the Three Trees traders. Another interesting thing too, that there's given the state of the treasury, though, there's no navy listed there, but that could be something to develop as well once you have a little bit more control over the land. King Vari's palace sits on the heights above the city, and the land's jarls are theoretically expected to meet there each spring equinox and winter solstice to report on the statuses of their realms and work out mutual problems. In recent years, however, jarls have begun skipping these meetings, preferring to remain near the comforts of their homes and growing disinterested in the affairs of the nation. So again, you got a nation that's somewhat kind of starting to tear itself apart. And not necessarily through conflict yet, just sort of indifference. So, trade goods, basically, again, the Three Trees Traders is the most powerful guild there. Exports include fleece, wolf and bear pelts and other pelts, so animal furs in general. Fine Uric weapons, beer and ale, fish from the cold waters of the Firth. Foreign merchants bring in the usual trade items, so refined metals, wines, liquors, finished clothing, processed textiles, horses, and luxury goods. So far, trade with the outside world does remain healthy, and the tenuous political situation has yet to push or put much economic pressure on the traders or on the common Stjordvikers. A sea trader out here does exist between Seierskap and Borrowing, all the way down on the sea's edge. So, and then finally, sort of allies and enemies. Though the realm Stjordvik has a formal treaty with Halskapa, both are in the throes of political conflict, and the agreement really is probably currently worth nothing. Trade agreements do exist with Svinnik, Doson, and other Anywherean realms, and basically keep the money flowing into the guild, less so the realm. Something to maybe rectify too. Enemies. The raiders of the Bloodskull Barony are a continual threat to the nomadic northern Stjordvikers and the settled Rurik of the central Jarlums. The White Witch has also agents here, and rumor has it that the Gorgon has considered exploiting the current political situation as well. So, as if all the internal conflicts and growing conflicts aren't enough, and then just sort of the weak, chaotic current setup of the realm, you got the usual bad guys also as existential threats to deal with, right? So Bloodskull Barony is an ever-present threat. The White Witch is just a threat to everybody, as is the Gorgon, although if the Gorgon were to somehow step in, maybe there will be conflict with the White Witch there, so that could potentially work itself out in different ways too, but again, you might be the victim of that there, depending on how that conflict shakes out. So it's an interesting realm, right? There's plenty of interesting adventure possibilities here, just as with all the Rurik realms. Could sort of rise to fame as being in service of the realm. You could be maybe one of the other Jarl families and just gaining popular support through adventuring, assuming you have a bloodline, or run into and acquiring a bloodline. And if the realm continues to be weak, maybe make your case for rulership. Although again, you got some of the other heavy hitters to deal with here. Again, level 9 and level 8 fighter. And their households and everything, nothing to sneeze at there. But ruling the realm, if you want a challenge, here it is. You got a weak, disorganized realm, very low-level provinces. You hardly own any of the law. The temple situation, I think, is rather benign. They didn't, really go into more detail on it, so I think you could work there to maybe increase the treasury a little bit. Not really any conflict there. But then the guild situation, again, you really have little control over that. But maybe partnering with Storm Holston, which, again, will carry some pros and cons with it at some point. But maybe just to sort that out a little bit, get some more power and influence and treasury coming in, solidify the army a little bit, gain some more central control, and really you have to work to reduce these NPCs' influence and power. And, again, you have that sort of budding lack of faith and trust from the common people, which is really what will help keep you in power. So really reversing course on that is going to be priority number one, and going from there. So that is everything really for Stjordvik for the moment. Let us know if you've run the realm, if you've adventured here, your thoughts on possibilities in here. Be sure to hit us up in the comments, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.